The earth didn't roar, it didn't scream, it groaned. It started at 4:17 a.m. Northern California was asleep. Even in the high desert silence east of the Sierra Nevada, there was a stillness that felt sacred. In a quiet canyon, wind rustled juniper. Stars blanketed the sky. And then, without warning, the ground flexed like muscle. It wasn't a rumble, it was a lurch. Seismographs across the region spiked like heart attacks. The first jolt lifted concrete off foundations, snapped rebar like toothpicks, and sent a power surge that blacked out the grid from Redding to Bakersfield. People were thrown from their beds. Cell towers fell, dams cracked. The Bay Bridge twisted. But the real epicenter wasn't San Francisco. It was 170 miles east, in a part of the Sierras so remote it didn't even have a name. There, in the dust-choked basin, something old shifted. For 22 seconds, the earth convulsed. The official rating would later be recorded as 9.7, the second strongest quake ever documented on Earth. Stronger than Loma Prieta, Northridge, and the Alaska Good Friday quake combined. It ruptured the Garlock Fault, triggered secondary quakes across the Pacific Plate, and snapped a tectonic boundary thought to be dormant for millennia. And in that nameless canyon, the ground cracked open. It's a research site, seismic monitoring, geothermal testing, some Department of Energy oversight, but mostly private. Jake Harmon adjusted the straps on his rescue harness as the Chinook thundered low over scorched ridgelines. "And you want us to go into it?" "Yes." The woman next to him, FEMA Incident Commander Olivia Brandt, didn't flinch. Her clipboard was steady in her lap despite the chop. "No survivors?" Harmon asked. "No contact, no distress calls. It should have had a redundant satellite uplink, but the last transmission was 30 minutes before the quake." Then silence. Harmon looked around the chopper. His team sat in tense silence. Sarah Lynn, their structural engineer, checked her gear again for the 5th time. Dominguez, their medic, clutched a water bottle with white-knuckled fingers. Anders and Prentice, the heavy equipment guys, shared a look that said everything. What the hell are we walking into? Brandt pulled a folder from her bag and handed it over. "It's called Project Morningstar, built in the late 90s, supposedly a collaboration between Stanford Geosciences and a private tech consortium. Underground facility, rated for a 9.0+. Harmon flipped through blueprints, grainy satellite photos, and supply chain manifests. Fuel deliveries, food stockpiles, borehole drill specifications. "What's the real story?" Brandt hesitated, then said, "They were experimenting with deep earth resonance." "Explain." "You ever heard of seismic amplification? You pump vibration at specific frequencies into a fault line to study echo patterns. Harmless on paper, until it isn't." Harmon looked up. Brandt continued. 3 months ago, they hit something. A node, a structure, no one's sure. All we know is they doubled their data bandwidth and requested classified containment procedures. Then came the quake. The Chinook set down on a crude helipad of broken shale. Dust billowed. The canyon walls rose like sleeping giants on either side. The main facility entrance had collapsed. Concrete pylons were crushed like tin cans. A secondary access tunnel, marked only by a bent "Service 2 inches" sign, had partially opened in the quake. "Guess we're going in the hard way," Lynn muttered. Inside, darkness. Dust motes swirled in the beam of Harmon's headlamp. The air was still. "Power grid's fried," she said. "But the backup might be alive deeper in?" "Then we go." The tunnel narrowed after 50 meters. They found a decontamination chamber, partially crushed, and forced their way past a jammed door. Beyond that, smooth walls, steel bulkheads, and eerie silence. Someone had tried to seal the place. Emergency welding marks. Lockdown protocols triggered manually. "They didn't want anyone getting in," Anders said. Prentice replied, "Or anything getting out." The first hallway past the service tunnel sloped downward at a subtle grade, just enough to strain the knees. Reinforced concrete, sterile white walls, emergency lighting every 20 feet. But none of it working. Only their headlamps cut through the dark. Sarah Lynn tapped her tablet. "We're 30 feet below the surface and descending. This should lead to level 1 of the operations wing." "Any chance the backup power kicked in lower down?" Harmon asked. "If they followed standard grid layout, it's isolated to the geothermal batteries near the core. We'll need to hit the main server room to route power back up." They pressed forward. At 200 meters in, they found their first sign of habitation. A break room, slightly tilted from the quake. Chairs overturned. A coffee mug shattered on the floor. A half-eaten protein bar still on the table. "They left in a hurry," Dominguez muttered. "No blood, no bodies," Anders noted. "That's good." But something about the room felt off. Harmon couldn't place it until Prentice pointed it out. "Why didn't anything fall off the shelves?" Everyone looked. The snack shelf and first aid cabinet were undisturbed, perfectly aligned. "They were bolted down," Harmon offered. "Nope. Look at the mounting brackets, freestanding." Lynn swallowed hard. "That doesn't make sense. At 9.7 comma, the lateral movement should have tossed everything." "Unless," Prentice said slowly, "the quake wasn't like a normal quake." 2 levels down, they reached the central shaft. The lift system was offline, but the emergency ladder ran the vertical span of the facility. A faded sign, Level 4 systems and power core. "We need to reach level 3 for central operations. Should be junction rooms on the way," Lynn said. They descended slowly, one at a time. Halfway down, Dominguez froze. "Stop, I hear something." Everyone held still. A soft, repeating click echoed up the shaft. Mechanical. Faint. Prentice whispered, "That's a relay switch. Sounds like it's trying to cycle on." Lynn brightened. "Maybe the geothermal isn't dead." They hit level 3 and forced open the bulkhead. A corridor stretched in both directions. Signage pointed to Ops Center, Server Core, and Residential Block A. The door to the server room was cracked. Inside, LEDs blinked. Fans spun low. "Hot standby mode," Lynn said, grinning. "If I can access the admin shell, I can jumpstart basic power." "Do it." Dominguez kept watch at the door. Anders and Prentice cleared the surrounding rooms. 10 minutes later, Lynn whispered, "We have light." With a cough and flicker, the overhead fluorescents buzzed on. Some blinked and died, others held steady. For the first time, the team could see the dust. It covered everything, not uniformly, but as if it had fallen recently. Fine, pale, almost like volcanic ash. "That's not concrete dust," Harmon said. Lynn ran a finger through it. "It's organic, like powderized bone." No one responded. With auxiliary power online, Lynn tapped into the facility's internal network. Cameras are down. Logs are incomplete. Some drives are corrupted. But there are fragment backups. She patched into the mainframe and started decoding system logs. Last recorded personnel count, 43. And now? 0 pings. No movement. She switched to audio logs. Here's one. Timestamp 12 hours before the quake. A voice crackled through Harmon's earpiece. This is Dr. Carr. We made contact, not direct. We picked up the resonance. It's not geological. It's structured. It echoes in rhythm, and it's getting stronger. Another log. We sent the probe drone into borehole 9. It descended 600 meters before telemetry failed. No impact, no wall contact, just disappeared, as if it kept falling into open space. Then, we sealed the lower labs. Something is resonating upward. People are reporting nausea, auditory distortions, dreams. We're initiating lockdown protocol Sigma. That was the last log, Lynn said quietly. The team moved deeper into level 3. Residential Block A was half collapsed. Caved-in ceilings, bent support beams. But one hallway was different. Someone had welded a bulkhead shut, hastily, with deep seams and burn marks across the door frame. Manual seal, Prentice muttered. They were trying to keep something out, or in. Dominguez found a message scratched into the wall beside the door. Don't open borehole 9. Behind them, something creaked. They spun, nothing. Just the humming of low power, the faint smell of dust and heat. This place is a tomb, Harmon said, and we just woke it up. They made camp in the server room. It had light, limited climate control, and a secure door. Harmon posted a rotation. He took first watch while Lynn continued scouring corrupted logs. The others tried to sleep, though no one really could. The facility groaned every few minutes, as if the metal skeleton beneath the concrete were shifting in protest. At 0330, Lynn found a video fragment. It's from a security feed near borehole 9, timestamp 2 days before the quake. The grainy footage showed a corridor, thick with steam or dust, illuminated by flickering fluorescence. 2 scientists in biohazard suits dragged a metal container between them. They stopped just outside the sealed lower lab door. Suddenly, one collapsed. The second looked back, panicked. Then the feed cut to static. No explosion, no noise. He just dropped, Lynn whispered. Dominguez leaned in. I don't see trauma, no bleeding. Prentice added, maybe he suffocated? But Harmon had a different thought. Look at the light. They rewound. At the moment the man collapsed, the overhead lights dimmed. Not all at once, but like a pulse. Like something breathed. Later that morning, Lynn discovered a functioning sensor node connected to the seismic data core. We've got subharmonic tremors, still active. Quakes? Not quite, more like deep earth vibrations, rhythmic, below 3 hertz. Prentice frowned. That's not natural. Lynn nodded. It's coming from the borehole area, still oscillating, still beating. They pulled up mapping data. The facility was built around a deep drill site that bored straight into metamorphic crust, supposed to be 6 kilometers deep, lined with ceramic tubing and tungsten reinforcements. But recent telemetry showed a collapse after the quake, and an expansion. It's widening, Lynn said. That's impossible. It should have sealed. Instead, it's growing. What's down there? Harmon asked. She hesitated. An echo chamber. But there's no chamber. At least, There wasn't. They returned to the sealed hallway. Anders and Prentice brought cutting torches. It took over an hour to slice through the welds. The door groaned as they pulled it open. The air inside was wrong. Heavy, humid, metallic, like breathing through a radiator. Lights were dead, no dust, just streaks. Dark, fluid streaks that had dried into long, twisting lines. Blood? Not quite, coagulated but fibrous, like muscle tissue. Keep moving, Harmon ordered. They passed shredded equipment, cracked walls. Someone had tried to destroy the lower lab. And then they reached the Borehole 9 viewing deck. A round room. Observation glass stretched from wall to wall, looking out over an immense vertical shaft that dropped into blackness. Except now, it wasn't empty. Tendrils of fused metal and something else, like chitin, like coral, lined the shaft. Structures bloomed like veins, like roots spiraling downward. Jesus, Prentice whispered. That's not geological. Lynn nodded, pale. It's growing back. Dominguez collapsed first. He didn't fall. He staggered, gripped the wall, and vomited. Then he started speaking in broken sentences. The hum. I can hear it. In my teeth. It's inside. They pulled him back to the server room. Lynn ran diagnostics, vitals elevated, blood pressure erratic. Prentice checked herself next, minor tremors in her hands. Are we being irradiated? Lynn shook her head. No radiation, but something's harmonizing, like we're being tuned. Dominguez moaned in his sleep. Anders sat beside him. We need to finish the mission. Find the logs. Get out. We finished the mission, Harmon said, but we're not leaving until we know what they found. The logs were hidden in a nested folder labeled Bastion Protocol. Lynn cracked the encryption using a brute key attack. Inside were notes from Dr. Carr. Borehole 9 made contact with a sublithic structure. It reflects vibration. It stores it. It sings. Not metaphorically. It emits harmonic frequencies when struck. We thought it was geological. It isn't. It's engineered. And it's alive. The quake wasn't natural. It was feedback. We struck too hard. It answered. We tried to seal it. We failed. It's not just transmitting. It's receiving. And something below is listening. If you're reading this, don't descend. Don't probe further. Collapse the tunnel. Burn the data. We woke it up. We gave it a voice. Anders made the call. We need to bury this place. Now. Before it reaches the surface. Harmon hesitated. We don't know if that'll work. What if burying it triggers more resonance? What if we don't, and it keeps growing? You saw the shaft. It's expanding. That thing is colonizing our crust. Prentice nodded. We can collapse the main support pillars, bring the upper facility down into the borehole, seal it with the weight of itself. Dominguez, semi-lucid, whispered, It's too late. But Harmon gave the order. Plant charges, set timers. We evacuate in 90 minutes. As the team dispersed, Lynn stared at the screen, watching the subharmonic readout. The pulse had changed. It was faster. Harmon gathered the team in the operations hub. The light from the servers now flickered more often than not. A high-pitched whine, not loud but ever-present, droned through the walls. We've got 90 minutes until detonation. 2 charges on level 3, 2 at the structural core. That should collapse the vertical shaft and the borehole, he said. Once the explosives are armed, we evac to the surface. Chinook ETA is 2 hours. We hold out that long, we're clear. No one argued. Everyone just moved. Lynn and Prentice took the system's core to plant the first 2 charges. Harmon, Anders, and Dominguez descended to level 4. "I thought level 4 was for geothermal infrastructure," Anders said. "It was, but there's more," Harmon replied. They reached the level 4 bulkhead. It had been forced open. Inside, chaos. Broken instruments. A thick smear of black dust trailed down the hallway like a snake's molt. It pulsed faintly. Dominguez pointed. "It's vibrating." The dust swirled faintly in his breath. Harmon could feel it too, a tightness in his lungs, a distant pressure. They reached the final stairwell, Borehole 9's true base. The shaft opened into a massive excavation, like a cathedral inside the earth. Steel scaffolding hung from the ceiling like a half-finished rib cage. And in the center, the borehole. It had changed again. What was once a clean cylindrical cut now bristled with structures. Filaments, struts, veins of fused metal and black organic matter. It was building up. "It's forming a superstructure," Anders whispered. "A tower." Dominguez swayed, barely able to stand. "We need to go, now." They placed the charges. As Harmon armed them, he caught sight of movement. Not an animal, not a person. A ripple, in the wall. As if something massive stirred just beyond the stone. "Back in the server room," Lynn screamed. The monitors erupted in static. Then, symbols, not letters, not numbers, patterns. "It's sending data," she muttered. "Not random, structured. It's trying to talk." She looked at Prentice. What if Carr was wrong? What if it's not just receiving? It's answering. Prentice grabbed her. "We don't have time. Let's go." They ran. With all charges planted, the team converged at the service tunnel. Lynn brought the data core. Harmon didn't argue. They emerged into the pre-dawn light. The mountains glowed red with the sun. Harmon triggered the remote. Nothing. Then, a deep rumble. The ground buckled. The entire canyon seemed to sink. Dust exploded upward like a geyser. Then, silence. It lasted 6 seconds. Just as the Chinook appeared on the horizon, the earth shifted again. Not a quake, a resonance. Every rock, every tree, every human bone vibrated. Lynn dropped to her knees. The data core in her arms glowed red hot. And from the collapsed canyon, a sound emerged. Low, impossible, musical, like 1,000 cellos bowing in unison. Prentice whispered, "It's still alive." The Chinook landed. They ran. As they lifted into the sky, Harmon looked down. The borehole was gone. But something beneath the surface was growing. 3 days later, they sat in a decontamination tent at Fort McLeod. Their clothes burned, lungs sore from the fine ash they'd breathed. The team was down to 5. Dominguez had slipped into a coma 6 hours after evac. He was airlifted to a military hospital. No brain activity. Just that same hum vibrating in his chest. Lynn hadn't spoken since the second pulse. Harmon gave the briefing. The brass didn't believe it. They called it delusion, environmental trauma, stress-induced hallucinations. But they took the data core, and that was enough. In her cot, Lynn sat cross-legged, holding an unplugged keyboard. Her fingers moved constantly, typing gibberish, repeating. Prentice watched from across the tent. She hasn't slept. What is she typing? Lynn turned her head slowly. It's not gibberish, she whispered. It's notation. She showed them her notepad. Staves, time signatures, alien symbols written like musical scores. It's talking in music. Anders took leave and never came back. One night, Harmon found him parked outside a quarry. Headlights pointed into the pit, car running, radio tuned to static. He said he could still hear it. Like sonar, but it's inside. Harmon dragged him out, reported nothing, but he knew the truth. The resonance hadn't ended. It had spread. The first aftershock hit 7 days later, not near the original epicenter, but in Nevada. Then Utah, then northern Mexico. But these weren't quakes. They followed no fault line. Each had the same signature, harmonic precursors below 3 hertz. A resonant hum that built for days. Then collapse. Lynn called it a chain reaction. It's not spreading like a crack. It's like a melody. One key activates the next. She opened her laptop, played a short, looping audio clip. The bass rumble from the borehole. It made Harmon's teeth ache. "It's not a voice," she said. "It's a signal." From the extracted data core, Lynn reconstructed an incomplete map. Not of tunnels, not of strata. Of resonant structures, spheres of influence underground, like sonar domes. They overlap, like nests, each one tuned to a frequency. The borehole didn't cause the quake. It completed a circuit. Prentice asked, "And the signal? What is it saying?" Lynn pointed at the pattern. A phrase repeated every 19 seconds. Not English, not any human language, but structured. "It's a call." Dominguez died 2 weeks later. Brain ruptured. Autopsy found no hemorrhage, just liquefaction in the auditory centers. His bones had a faint resonance, like tuning forks. Prentice left soon after. We didn't bury it, we woke it. Lynn stayed behind, monitoring global sensors. More pulses followed, quakes with harmonic signatures. Africa, Tibet, the Mariana Trench. Each time, stronger. Each time, louder. Each time, closer. 3 months later, the tremors became global. Not quakes, vibrations, detected on all seismographs, but below audible range, a planetary hum. Scientists argued. Theories range from tectonic harmonics to core resonance instability. Lynn knew better. She tracked the pulses. Each one was stronger. Each matched the frequency first recorded beneath borehole 9. But they weren't just stronger. They were coordinated. A pattern, a countdown. People began to change. Not visibly, not at first. Reports came in. Mass insomnia, auditory hallucinations, the sense of something pressing behind the eyes. In Finland, a group of engineers drilled into ancient bedrock and claimed to hear music. In Tokyo, subway passengers reported synchronized nosebleeds during a moment of complete silence. Governments buried it. Lynn shared it. She called it the Echo Map, a global diagram of all resonance zones, each pulsing, each connected. "It's not just beneath us," she told Harmon. "It's through us, through the crust, the rock, the mantle." He stared. Like a global instrument. She nodded, and it's tuning up. Then came the rupture. A global silence. For 12 hours, every seismograph in the world recorded nothing. No hum, no noise. It was like the planet had held its breath. Lynn screamed, "It's begun!" The first structural breach was in Siberia. Not an explosion. An unfolding. The land cracked outward, revealing layered formations, spirals, struts, towers of fused organic synthetic material, like coral from another planet. then Iceland, then the Congo, then Chile. Each breach aligned with a resonance stone. The earth was blooming. Lynn stood on a hillside overlooking the Colorado Plateau. It was quiet. The signal had ceased. No tremors, no quakes, just a deep sense of presence. The ground beneath her pulsed, not violently but steadily, as if breathing. She pressed her palm to the dirt. A tone vibrated through her bones. Low, musical, familiar. It wasn't a warning. It was a chorus. Behind her, the mountains glowed faintly, not from sunlight, but from within. And beneath her feet, something vast and patient continued to rise. The song had only just begun.